Breaking right now, Meghan Markle's deranged PR campaign continues. Not content and losing the plot because of the fact that she is now seen the world over as a disaster tourist who will use anyone's tragedy to receive good PR. She's been sending out her friends, she's been sending out her bullied staff members to try and change the narrative. Personally, I don't think it's working. Personally, I think it's hugely embarrassing, and we will get the verdict from our royal mastermind, Angela Levin, on this in just one moment. But let me take you through this cringeworthy article. You're going to have to listen to this with like your fingers in your hands because it's just so embarrassing. But it's from Marie Claire, and we know Marie Claire is one of the only magazines alongside Town and Country, People, and Us Weekly that has remained slavishly loyal to Meghan Markle. And it is headlined exclusive. Meghan Markle's behind-the-scenes help made the biggest difference for Altadena girls' fire relief. And again, what's pretty gross about this is she's actually using a teenager to push her false narrative. But anyway, here we go. The Altadena girls founder says, Meghan is so incredibly kind. She was so excited to help. The magazine says, after the Duke and Duchess of Sussex were spotted volunteering at a Los Angeles food bank and Meghan appeared in an Instagram reel from Altadena Girls, numerous royal experts, like me, claimed the Duchess was just looking for a photo op. But Colvert, now she's the young girl who Meghan is using to enhance her PR, says she finds the claim ridiculous. And she said, they're like, oh, she came in and she just dropped her stuff off and left. People weren't there. She added that Meghan came in with bags of clothing from her own closet and was there for multiple hours in a day. She claims the Duchess even got stylist training so she could help girls choose outfits and accessories. Well, some people who haven't been too keen on Meghan's fashion might find it quite interesting that she's finally had some fashion training. But Colvert said for all the girls that were coming in, they got to be styled by Meghan Markle.
All right, let's get straight to it. Meghan Markle is now being accused of orchestrating yet another self-serving PR stunt, this time using a 14-year-old girl to prove she's a charitable person. Let's put this into perspective. Meghan has been losing the battle for public opinion ever since she and Prince Harry ran off to Hollywood, trashed the royal family and played the ultimate victims on Oprah. But folks, when you spend years positioning yourself as a strong, independent woman while simultaneously complaining about how oppressed you are, people stop buying what you're selling. And that's exactly what's happening here. Meghan needs a reset. So what does she do? She pulls one of the oldest tricks in the book. She finds a sympathetic, vulnerable figure, in this case a teenage girl who runs a charity, and uses her as a human shield against criticism. This is the same tactic the radical left uses all the time. They hide behind children, minorities, and activists to push their agenda, so if you criticize them, you're the bad guy. Sound familiar?
Colvert continues, noting that some clients came in and just completely broke down when they saw the Duchess there. As for her stepdad, he says he was in shock at how long Meghan, who recently spoke with Marie Claire about her work with Southern California Welcome Project, stayed and helped. Colvert says she was carrying out bags to people's cars. But the Archewell Foundation's support has continued beyond that day, and they tell Marie Claire they've continued to open lots of doors for us and make connections. So, Meghan Markle is a hero. By the way, this very embarrassing piece of propaganda, I've got to call out the woman behind it. I have to. I'm sure she's a very nice person. But folks, I think we may have found the new Omid Scobie. So this is a woman called Kristen Contino. She is the senior royal and celebrity editor for Marie Claire. The issue is, though, actually, she really has no knowledge or no contacts within the royal family. She's a fangirl. And as I say, she's doing what she feels she has to do to get Meghan on side. But unfortunately, she's not telling the truth. She is a propagandist because she was also the woman, do you remember before Christmas, who wrote all about the fact that Meghan had spent this time at a particular charity when it turned out she was there simply for a couple of minutes and didn't speak to everyone in the room. So I think we've got to be very aware of this new woman, Kristen Contino, who is being used by Team Sussex as the new Omid Scobie. But let me bring in a woman who does do royal reporting properly, Angela Levin, our royal mastermind, of course, the biographer of Prince Harry and Queen Camilla. So, I mean, Angela, it's like they almost never learn, do they? Are we really supposed to believe this rubbish from Kristen Contino? And what do you make of the fact that they're using a young teenage girl now to speak out in defense of Meghan? That's pretty desperate, isn't it?
Well, I think it's the obvious thing to do. You can a young girl will be much more sort of open-eyed that she was allowed to do this. She probably rushed home, told her parents, and she'd remember it for ages. I mean, it's a skillful thing to ask, and they do get excited from someone whose name is well known. And if she could actually say things about this woman, Meghan, she couldn't believe anything would be better. They're not going to analyse it. She might not have heard very much about her before, but she's given the chance to talk to everyone, and this amazing woman needs her to give the people clothes and to thank them and actually to introduce them. You know, it's a real honour to do that, I think. But they don't know anything beyond the weakest level of what she's like. And I don't think that she would become Meghan's friend. I mean, she might think that, but then she might be very upset that Meghan no longer needs her. So that's the end of that. But she wouldn't be someone who was very selfie and knows what's going on. You know, she just would be thrilled to help. And it gives Meghan a chance to just sort of say, take this dear and give them that dear and do this and that. So it's quite useful.
Meghan was involved with a group called Alana's Girls Fire Relief, where she allegedly volunteered and donated clothes. Sounds noble, right? Except Dan Wootton and his guest Angela Levin point out that this isn't the whole story. The problem isn't that Meghan helped, it's how she's framing it. According to Wootton, Meghan's team handpicked a 14-year-old girl to act as a mouthpiece, making sure the media published a carefully crafted story about Meghan's generosity. Let's call this what it is: a PR stunt disguised as charity. Here's where things get even more predictable. The media is completely complicit in this nonsense. Dan Wootton calls out Marie Claire, People and Town and Country, magazines that refuse to report anything critical about Meghan, no matter how ridiculous her behavior is. And again, folks, this is exactly what we see in America every single day. Just think about it. The same media that spent years attacking Donald Trump for everything he did, no matter how successful he was, is the same media that bends over backward to protect the Bidens, the Obamas, and Hollywood elites like Meghan. When a conservative donates to charity, the media questions their motives. When a progressive celebrity does the same thing, the media turns them into a saint. Angela Levin gets it. She points out how Meghan always positions herself as the misunderstood victim, even when she's actively manipulating the media.
Well, it is, but I mean, oh, goodness, I mean, look, she looks like a very sweet girl, Avery Colvert, and clearly her heart is in the right place. I don't for a single second have a negative word to say about her, because actually, unlike Meghan Markle, she is doing proper charity work, and I fully support her. What I have an issue with is Christine Contino and Marie Claire and Team Sussex and Archewell exploiting a 14-year-old girl to push propaganda about Meghan Markle, which we know is not true. And we know why she's doing this, Angela, because there's been such a backlash after Justine Bateman and TMZ and most of the mainstream media in America turned on Meghan. And I know we're going to be coming to that in just a moment, but it does feel particularly grim. What do you make of this Kristen Contino, Angela? Because do you remember she was the woman last year who wrote all of that false information about Meghan's event with the women from Afghanistan? And it feels like she will just pump out whatever team Meghan tell her to, which is what Omid Scobie used to do.
Meghan didn't stay for the meal for these people. She didn't go and collect them. And she used the same photograph for the first one, for the second and third, I think. So somehow that was fiddled as well. Well, I think that a lot of people will tell soft lies to get in a newspaper or on a television. And if the people there don't want you to be straightforward and say what you think, and truthful, people do say all sorts of amazing, ridiculous, complimentary things to someone who actually not only doesn't deserve it, but hasn't done it. I think that you must know as well that journalists get told off if they say something that the people in the higher up role don't want to know. They just want to think, well, they might get her to talk to them if they say lovely things about her. If she gets lots of place, then they can, get people watching more than they'd hoped. Meghan actually draws people to her because some of the things are so amazing and that people will watch them. And I think that's what will happen with Netflix. This is what this woman can say, that it would be very, very popular. But really, a load of people watch anything, whether it's theatre, a film, or Meghan trying to make you eat some pasta, that, they are wonderful. But they're so awful, it comes across so ridiculously that you sit there roaring with laughter. I mean, I've been to things where, it's been so terrible, it's about to close, and then lots of people wanted to see it because it was funny and they couldn't believe their eyes. And I think we've got two ends of that, haven't we? We've got Netflix and we've got Marie Claire, and they're both trying to fight to be the sweetest person about Meghan in the hope they'd get a good story.
Folks, let's be clear. This is a manufactured redemption arc, carefully crafted for public consumption. And guess what? It's not working. The more she tries to rewrite history, the more people see right through her. Now, let's talk about a phrase that perfectly describes Meghan Markle: disaster tourist. Dan Wootton is absolutely right. Meghan doesn't just support charities, she strategically inserts herself into tragedies, then makes sure the cameras are rolling. This isn't charity. It's opportunism. And again, we've seen this before. Remember how politicians and Hollywood elites rushed to photo ops after disasters but did nothing behind the scenes? Remember when AOC went to the southern border in 2019, put on a white outfit and pretended to cry in front of a fence? Then it was exposed that there were no migrants on the other side. It's the same thing. Manufactured outrage, manufactured concern, all designed for clicks, views, and personal gain.
And that leads us on, Angela Levin, very nicely to some in-depth research that you have been doing on the back of a story from the Daily Mail, which claims how America turned its back on Prince Harry and Meghan Markle after Vanity Fair's recent expose. We look at the previously pro-Sussex media that have now betrayed them. And the Mail set this article up by saying, Angela, across the pond, however, US media companies initially gave every indication that they would support their American Duchess and her Prince Charming. This could be seen in US outlets treating as fact the allegations they made in their notorious 2021 interview with Oprah Winfrey, which included accusations of racism and conspiracy in the royal family. After this, the royal family were lampooned as being out of touch and riddled with unconscious bias. The US media onslaught was so severe that Americans quickly took to social media to finish what the American Revolution started and to burn down Buckingham Palace and the monarchy. Oh, Angela, what a difference 5 years makes. Because, of course, since that moment, Spotify, The Cut, and Vanity Fair, they are the three outlets that the Mail points to, have turned, and so too has the mainstream media. So, Angela, what have you learned about this, and why has the media in America turned on Meghan in this way?
Well, I think they believed her. I totally believed her and thought again what a victim she'd been. I think this victim thing is very important. And she said lots of things that weren't true. And she also knew that the royal family wouldn't respond because they don't do that. So everyone thought she'd had the most terrible time. But actually, she might have felt it for herself, but I think anyone else would have thought that she'd been very spoilt. And I know that the king, I know that the queen, I know that they tried really, really hard, and they were thrilled that she joined because they could do so much for the royal family. They were thrilled about her, so they weren't out to be nasty. And but I think it took a long time for quite a long time for them to realize that a lot of this was made up and there to be nasty. And the thing of saying they were racist when the Duke of Edinburgh was dying and the Queen was unwell actually hung over the royal family for a very long time. The last thing they are racist, because they've got lots of people of different colour and different countries, and I think that it was the most terrible thing. And then they said afterwards they never said that. It was some sort of bias, but that's just the same. And I think that's what it is, that people found out that what she was saying and was not true. And so they began to feel they thought it was terrible for the royal family. And I think Americans and loads of people care about a family. Lots of taxi drivers said to me, "Oh, this Meghan, well, she shouldn't be doing that. You don't wash your dirty linen at home. That's real nasty." I didn't start the conversation. They would just sort of mention it on my journey somewhere. And they found that you shouldn't, if you don't like the mother, your father-in-law, your mother-in-law, then leave them, go away, be quiet. But you don't actually bring it out in the open of how awful they are. And to do that for the royal family was absolutely disgusting. And she just never changes, does she? It's always about her and the victim, and everything is so difficult for her in life. And so they don't like her anymore. And now people don't believe what she says, maybe not a word what she says. It's her own fault for saying things that are not true.
Let's be real. Meghan isn't helping these people, she's helping herself. And the fact that she's now involving a teenager in her PR games? That's next level disgusting. So what's the takeaway from all this? Meghan Markle is not a humanitarian, she's a master manipulator. The media is complicit in pushing her false redemption story. Using a 14-year-old girl to shield herself from criticism is beyond disgraceful. This is part of a bigger pattern, where elites used charity as a shield for personal gain. Folks, the lesson here is simple. Do not trust the media. They lie. They cover for their chosen ones. They push propaganda disguised as good news. And just like we expose the corruption in Washington, the lies in Hollywood, and the hypocrisy of woke culture, we have to expose Meghan Markle for the fraud she is. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Do you think Meghan Markle's PR stunts are fooling anyone anymore?